Welcome back to Gale Force Wins Season 2. Season 1 in 2021 consisted of 92 episodes, and the stories have inspired a vast cross-section of people. The feedback that Alan and Jerry receive daily was compelling and inspires us to bring so much more to you in 2022. Thank you to those that joined us in Season 1. We continue to explore the journeys of Canadians doing inspiring things.
Well, if you want an interesting episode of Gale Force Wins, you're going to want to tune in and listen to Jacqueline Lee. She talks about a very, very disruptive technology and process that's starting in Newfoundland and will impact healthcare across the globe. You're going to want to listen to this and her talk around opportunity at every corner and certainly technology growth within Newfoundland. This is a very inspirational podcast that you're going to want to be part of. Oftentimes, Jerry and I are very motivated by the stories that we hear from our guests. I guess to sum it up, we get high off our own supply. Jerry?
Absolutely, Alan. And you know what? This is about winning, but Jacqueline in this episode actually talks about failure and significant failure with the failure of a company and how that spurned, an incredible rebirth. So I think that's important. Yes, where Gale Force wins, but the stories of resilience and coming up from the ashes are also something that are special.
Like a phoenix that rises from the ashes, Jerry, you're going to want to tune into this one. Well, welcome to another edition of Gale Force Wins. I'm Alan Dale, and with me as always, my good buddy from the East End of St. John's, Jerry Carew. How are you, Jerry?
Doing well here today. The sun is shining, but you know what? We have someone who, frankly, I don't know. People have said to me, do you know a lot of the guests? And frankly, I don't. Lately, Alan, you and I have known a few of the people, but Jacqueline, I said to her before we went on, I've seen her posts on LinkedIn, and it's just such a positive vibe. And frankly, I had no idea what PolyUnity was, so I'm like, you know what? I really want to dig into this. Jacqueline, I believe you have an accounting background or a finance background. That's always intriguing to me as well, because I'm not great at that. So hopefully we'll touch on that.
Well, that's great, Jerry. And it's a great lead into the conversation today as well, because many people quite don't understand our model and why we do this and how we do this. So why we do this is to pull out inspirational stories from people who have had interesting journeys, so that people can find inspiration from those journeys and maybe take steps of their own to make some positive impact on the world going forward. And also, Jerry and I don't prepare for these interviews. We go in cold because we want to keep it as authentic and genuine as possible. And really, it's just a conversation between people getting to know one another. And I think that's what makes it so appealing to a lot of people. So without further ado, Jacqueline, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
First off, thanks for the opportunity to chat with you guys this morning. I've been listening to lots of your podcasts. And they are quite inspirational. So I'm honored to be one of your guests. To tell you a bit about myself, gosh, where to start? I was born here, grew up here in Paradise. Had a challenging childhood, I guess. I lost my father when I was 9. So lots of similarities, I think, to your background, Jerry, after I listened to your podcast with your mom. It was really touching. He was sick for a long time, and my mom took care of him. And then she went back to school when she was almost 40 to learn to become a nurse, which was, I think, one of her earlier goals. So I guess to watch her go through that was certainly inspirational to me. And I felt an immense level of responsibility, I guess, early on and I think that's where my ambition came from. When I look back at things now, it's amazing how much our childhoods dictate our path in life. It's powerful, and I'm taking that responsibility very seriously now as we're raising 3 young boys. But other than that, I had a relatively normal childhood. My mom did an amazing job considering how difficult she had it. Involved in lots of activities. Very eager to get into university. I never had a passion for anything. I never understood the direction I wanted to take. I picked business because it was the most general, and I thought I could work anywhere and do anything. So I picked a major in finance. Also did economics at the same time, so I came out with 2 degrees. Worked full-time the whole way through at McDonald's. That was an incredible experience as well. And then after that, my husband and I were looking for jobs in the workforce. And unfortunately, Newfoundland was a very different place back then, in the late 1990s, early 2000s. So we had to leave and go to Halifax. So I guess if we couldn't be here, that was the next best choice. And I found a job. I started at the very bottom. I was very excited to be making $23,000 a year as an accounting clerk, just be given the opportunity to get in there. And I always knew that if I worked the hardest and just showed them what I could do, I'd have no issues working my way up. So I stayed with that first company that gave me a chance. It was Joe Shannon from Cape Breton. Learned an incredible amount from that gentleman and his 4 sons who run each of his companies. But as soon as we could come back to Newfoundland, we were eager to do so. At the time, I was going through some incredible health challenges. We had a lot of difficulty with fertility and treatments, and that caused a lot of health challenges. And so we stuck around in Halifax longer than we wanted to because the clinic was there. And unfortunately, we don't have those services here in Newfoundland. But finally, the stars aligned, and we wanted to be back and close to our family and our friends. And we both quit our jobs and moved back to Newfoundland and took a chance. So where to go from there? Sorry, go ahead, Alan.
I'm going to pause you there for a second because, my gosh, you've covered a lot of ground, and I'm emotionally moved by your journey already. And I can't wait to look at, where you want to take us next. But if I could go back a little bit, first of all, is your mom still with us?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, she is. She just turned 70.
I want to talk a little bit about her, if that's okay. Tell me what it was to watch her in the moment, caring for your dad, raising kids. How did that mold you today? What kind of a foundation did that give you?
Oh gosh, I certainly didn't appreciate it at the time. And I mean, we didn't grow up with a lot of money, and I didn't notice that. We were still involved with tons of activities. She was missing a lot because she had to study a lot, and she had to do lots of tours in different hospitals, and then filling that with part-time work to supplement the tuition and stuff. So, I mean, looking back, I have no idea how she did it. But it gave me the drive and ambition, I think, and my work ethic. I mean, that has to be where it came from. So yeah, it was foundational to everything. And she grew up very challenged, far more than I did. She lost her father too when she was very young, and so our grandmother raised 8 children by herself. I mean, so we have it easy now compared to some of the previous generations raising multiple children by themselves. But being able to stretch a dollar, and we still had incredible vacations, and I have no idea how she did it, but it was amazing.
It is amazing, isn't it, Jacqueline?
Yeah.
To think that how could in the context of today, how would it be possible to juggle all of that? It seems almost impossible, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But she did it, and what's her name?
Linda.
Yeah,
Linda Tilley.
Well, that's incredible.
Alan, I just thought of something, and not to make light of this, but we should almost have Gale Force moms come on here. Because there's so many inspirational stories, Jacqueline. I didn't expect to get emotional right off the bat here, but thanks for that.
Yeah, certainly not out of the gate, eh? That was great. Tell me now. You touched on and you passed over quickly that the whole time you're going to university, you were at McDonald's, and that was an experience too. Tell us about that. What did you learn from that?
Well, I mean, in hindsight, I think I should have had a bit more fun with it, but I took it very seriously.
Yeah.
And I moved up quite quickly, and I was the assistant store manager by the time I left. But anyone in the retail sector, and if I see people in the service industry, like resumes coming across my desk, I immediately give it a ton of weight and importance. To be able to survive and thrive in such environments, maybe more so in the past than now. It teaches incredible skills that I don't think you can get anywhere else. Just dealing with customer complaints and dealing with birthday parties. And I mean, we went through some crazy times together. We had a bomb threat. We had a car come through the window that rolled down the hill. We ran out of fries one day. Like those incredible stories where you see the teams come together.
Jacqueline, sorry.
Yeah.
My first job, very first job, was McDonald's, and
cool.
I think it's time to apologize to Kathy Bennett because I didn't last. I did not last. She hired me. I knew her brother. Anyway, Kathy, I'm sorry. I left you in the lurch. I know this is almost 40 years ago now, but kudos to you for being able to do that because I did not enjoy that job.
Yeah, Kathy has an amazing story, and she's been an incredible mentor of mine as well.
Okay, so Jacqueline, okay, that's another thing I wanted to pick up on, and I'm glad you mentioned that. You mentioned Joe from Cape Breton, and he meant a great deal to you, and he sounds like he was a mentor, and it sounds like Kathy was a mentor. Tell me about your mentors.
Well, Joe was probably the first one. And I mean, I have a lot of women colleagues right now and women employees of mine. And they're very young. And unfortunately, they've gone through experiences already in their young careers that have had certain mindsets in how they work and how they show up. But there wasn't a lot of us. There wasn't a lot of strong females there in Joe's group of companies, but there was female representation, very high level in every management team of each company he had. So I had a role model in each one of his companies. And right now he's operating the largest trucking company in Canada, one of the largest in North America. He has Shanix Retirement Living in Nova Scotia. I dealt with the real estate side of things, but he had strong female leaders in every company. And I got a seat at the boardroom table. I was the only female there, but my voice was always important. He wanted to understand my perspective and my opinion. And I was very young and very new to my career. So it never felt like I didn't belong or that wasn't okay. Or that I couldn't have an incredible career with his group. So that first experience, I think, for me was foundational and key to driving my ambition even further. So he was important for sure.
I got to jump in there. One of the things that, and you introduced it, you watched my mom's episode. My mom was intimidated by a lot of things. She never had that mentorship. You say you're at that table, you're a young woman. What is it that allowed you to have the confidence to sit at that table and have the voice that you were obviously able to voice?
I don't know, and I've lost it at several points in my career, and I think I have it back now. I was always super prepared. And I knew my material and I knew my content and I understood the questions that were come at me and I had answers to them already. So that gave me a calmness and a confidence that I knew my material and the answers. I cared deeply about the company and where it was going, and the role that I thought I could play in it. And I'm stubborn. I'm too stubborn sometimes. I have strong ideas in my head about what the right answer is, and whether there's control issues or not. I want to make sure that it's heard, and and that must be it. I don't know.
Well, preparation certainly goes a long way, doesn't it? If you're prepared going into something, and you're stubborn in your way, I mean, there's no doubt about it that can project the confidence. Sometimes it's required at a boardroom table. There's no doubt about it. Jacqueline, now before we took that journey back, and I'm glad we did. You were talking about you'd quit the job in Halifax and you moved back. Paradise. Paradise, such a lovely name for a community, isn't it? Many of our listeners globally would be saying, what kind of a place is named Paradise? But we'll maybe get into that in a little bit as well. But so you quit your job and you moved back. Tell me what it was like. Well, two things there. Quitting your job, emotional, but also moving home, emotional. Tell me about that whole experience.
Well, we were in one of the darkest places of our life at the time. And that's a lesson I'm starting to learn now. At every moment of devastation of when something terrible happens, there's something amazing right around the corner that's often completely unexpected, every single time, which is an incredible lesson in itself. And it's helped me. I mean, I've always been a strong planner and a strong warrior. So it's helped me calm down and chill out a bit, and just have faith that things happen when they're supposed to happen and opportunities reveal themselves when they're supposed to. As long as you're open to them, there's always something amazing right around the corner. So, I mean, we didn't come home under really exciting circumstances, but it was a new and fresh beginning. I think I was just excited about the changes that would come, being closer to our family and our friends. We were pretty isolated in Nova Scotia. We were very focused on our careers, and didn't make a ton of, strong relationships or strong ties to the community. So we were definitely missing that aspect in our lives.
There's something about that social connection with family, that you can, no amount of money can make up for that. And it's just, I know my wife and I, we moved to Ontario when our kids were very young, 2 and 4, and thought it was a good idea at the time till we got up there and realized just how important the family connection was. And then when you come back to it and the family embraces you again, it's hard to put into words, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you certainly can't put a dollar figure on it. That's for sure. So you came back, and then where did your journey take you when you came back to Newfoundland, you and your husband?
So my career to date was in construction, property management, real estate. So I continued on that journey. I took a role as a CFO with Craig Williams and the Future Group of companies. So it was the largest home construction company in Newfoundland, actually, and a renovation company. It was in heavy civil and land development and site servicing. And at the time, I thought that was my dream job. It sounded incredibly exciting. It was a larger company. There was more growth opportunities. I mean, at the end of the day, it didn't work out. And that's obviously for the better now. But I met some incredible people and made some incredible relationships. And it did. I mean, ultimately the company failed in what I felt was like a public situation. But and to go through that, we had 100 employees at the time. I was the last. I locked the door and was the last one there. To go through that experience with those people, and the grace and the professionalism that you can't put on a resume. under very, very stressful and high pressure situations, these people showed up and performed every single day. And that was incredible in itself.
Tell me about that. Tell me, where do people draw up that strength to do that? You know that the ship might be going down, yet you've got the courage and the strength to go in there and continue on. Where do people draw that from?
Well, I think the relationship had to be quite strong to begin with. We looked at each other like family. I was very transparent and open every step of the way, so I think they trusted me a great deal. I personally helped, to varying degrees, place all of these people in roles in the province. I think every one of those people right now are in a better situation than they were before. And that's not all on me, but I try to play my part in all of that as well to lessen the burden. But it's just incredible how the team can come together.
Is that a Newfoundland thing, do you think?
Gosh, I hope so. I think so. And you can't know what you're made of until you're tested, right? You don't understand I didn't understand how strong myself was until I was tested. And you can show the resiliency and because you can easily go negative. You can easily go to a bad place and a dark place, but they were, I admire them right to the very end.
Alan, I just got to jump in there. I can't help but reflect. We've called this podcast Gale Force Wins, and we don't want to ignore the challenges. We've had some pretty challenging topics covered here. One lady lost her son in Afghanistan. But Jacqueline, it's really important, I think, for anyone who's probably not been through as many experiences as maybe myself and Alan and you have, to share this. And I really appreciate you sharing it. Despite the fact it's about winning, frankly, you've shared something that is really important that people need to know. It's not always about winning. The challenges, the dark places that we go sometimes, I love what you said, around the corner. You have to have hope, optimism, no matter where you end up. You've got to have those. Otherwise, you're never getting out of that dark hole, right?
No. And that's one of the strongest things I try to instill in my team today, accountability in your personal life, in your professional life. You absolutely have a very strong role to play in the direction your life takes, and the opportunities that come at you and the challenges that come at you and how you look at those. And I love talking about failures or missteps or bad things. There's incredible lessons in those. And if you don't take accountability or look at them in the right perspective, you can't learn from them.
Well, you said something else, Alan. She said something else about you're being calm. And it's funny, when I was younger, being 100% commission sales, there was times when I was too high strung. I'm still a little bit like that. But I remember one, and I'll shout out to Dean Jacobs. He always said to me, Jerry, you got to stop the knee-jerk reaction. I would knee-jerk. Right? So I've worked extremely hard over the decades to not be a knee-jerk reaction type person. I think my first thing is to knee-jerk from every situation. So the being calm is really important in business, isn't it?
Well, the things it's funny now when you look back at it, some of these earlier challenges in your career or your life, and how you thought it was the end of the world, or how you overreacted and panicked, and the amount of time you spent worrying about things you couldn't control. And my team is so young right now. We've got a lot of young team members, and they're at the early part of their career. So things seem like a big deal to them. And I don't want to laugh it off or minimize it in any way, but these other experiences have crisis control and a calmness in chaos, and to be able to thrive in chaos. And those are all things that come with these experiences that test us.
There's no doubt in my mind that you're providing the team a great deal of mentorship yourself, having gone through these different challenges and these ups and downs. But, you know, when I find that you learn a great deal from the downturns. You learn a great deal about yourself and a lot about the people around you as well in those moments. And those are always the ones that strengthen the team moving forward. And a remarkable journey to date. So I want to know what you're doing in the moment. Like, what's keeping you excited right now? What are you doing?
Well, that experience with Future Group and the relationships that came out of it, that's where I met my business partner now and my life partner now, Mark Gillingham. So he joined me at Future Group of Companies as the president. So we went through that incredible struggle together. And out of that, he recruited me into SkyHawk Telematics. So I spent almost 4 years there with that team as well. And so that was my first exposure to the tech sector, which I had completely ignored up to that point in my career. For no reason, just with my finance and accounting background, I just didn't see myself as having a place in there. So we had fun there for 4 years. We were a tiny little company competing on this incredibly global landscape. I mean, we had a couple thousand units. We were a GPS tracking company, quite complicated report analytics for like snow plows and utility trucks and such. So we had a couple thousand units, and we were competing with the big boys that had hundreds of thousands of units. So we were a scrappy little team, but we got some big clients we had no business getting because of our amazing customer service. And then we started to get noticed. So people kind of knocking on our doors wanting to talk about investing or buying us. So I spent 3 years in heavy due diligence activities. And then finally TELUS bought us in 2019. And I guess looking back at that now, it had to happen. It was necessary for the team to grow and in customer base and employees. But I certainly didn't enjoy it after the fact. I mean, we suddenly went from 35 people to 50,000 people, and you slowly get to lose your autonomy and your power, and the speed that you're going at just grinds to a slow. So it certainly works for some people. It didn't work for me. So both Mark and I were looking for the next thing in our career that we could find a family and home with. It was really important to us that I had a social cause behind it, that we believed in the work and the impact of the work that it could have. So we started mentoring PolyUnity, over 2 years ago now. Just getting to know them. A colleague of mine in the past was the first employee in there. So I gave a speech actually to one of Kathy Bennett's events where I got up and talked about the company we just sold 2 weeks prior. And so they reached out to me and wanted some advice. It was just 2 employees at the time. Started out, they were 3D printing medical simulations. So devices that could improve training, where you could do different procedures, like they had a trachea that you could learn how to do the procedures. Oftentimes doctors and nurses, the first time they do a procedures on a live human, or you could see them practicing their stitching techniques on oranges. So we wanted to up the game with these high level, high fidelity, high quality devices. But the market just wasn't there or big enough, or the market wasn't ready for us. So now we're shifted into medical devices. We're bringing additive manufacturing as a fully managed service into hospitals. So we're partnered with Eastern Health, We're also partnered with CHEO in Eastern Ontario. And through a subscription-based service, people can collaborate and partner with us, completely all-inclusive price. So we've got about 100 medical devices now we've developed over the past year, focused on things that they use a lot of that we can replicate, make a digital twin. Problems that exist, we come up with solutions for. Or if equipment is broken, we fix pieces of it to get it back into operation. And we've had a lot of success doing that, and it's been amazingly fun.
Jacqueline, I'm struggling to find the intersection between additive manufacturing and healthcare. Help me there.
Well, it didn't exist before. And we don't have any competitors, and the solution that we're offering is completely novel. There's lots of companies operating in parts of our business, but no one's really putting this all together. I mean, aviation and automotive and industrial all have this figured out already and have additive manufacturing brought into their companies. But no one's really doing this for healthcare. The hospitals we're in have 3D printing rooms, but they don't have technicians and they're all not used. So it needs to be fully managed, and doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals need to do the jobs that they're skilled at. And I think that we can be a great partner with them.
Go ahead, Alan.
No, you go ahead, Jerry.
I just, if you had a product like this, are you saying like you're 3D printing an additional piece to go on something that already exists? Is that
possibly? Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give you a few examples, but yeah. COVID certainly sped our company up or validated our company. I think the problem existed before, but it wasn't obvious. Trying to tackle healthcare distribution or develop those relationships with the distributors, the barriers to entry are enormous. And I don't think we would be around right now if it wasn't for COVID. So the hospital started having challenges finding simple things. And they would place orders and suddenly they wouldn't arrive anymore, or there was no ETA, or so new problems started surfacing with supply chain dependability, with pricing being erratic. So at various instances throughout the pandemic, Eastern Health came to us and said, can you help with this? Or we have this problem and we're not sure how to go about it. And we've got some amazing stories. So the vaccine vials, for example, when we started getting the Pfizer vaccines delivered to the province, they'd come in these giant pizza boxes of 1,000 vials per box. It's got to be under very strict temperature conditions. It can't shift at all. Or if it'll be ruined, it can only be managed for a few seconds at a time. So we have these huge 1,000 vial boxes, and we've got to distribute them into tiny, small coolers in small quantities and disperse them over a silly amount of geographic locations. So the CDC came to us and posed the problem. Within 24 hours, we had a prototype. So we went back and forth for maybe 8 or 9 days. And within 2 weeks, we had full production going. And when we had hundreds of trays dispersed out through the province that they used. So that's the power of this, right? Within 24 hours, we can have a design on a napkin or out of your head turned into a prototype. And we've done this over and over.
Jacqueline, do you have print shops actually in the hospital, or are they done somewhere else and then distributed to the hospital?
Yeah, we have a whole print farm in an Eastern Health facility. And we have printers up in CHEO in Ottawa as well. So, and I mean, you got to wrap your mind around the power and the impact of this. I mean, the idea is we're going to have geographically dispersed production centers. so that if you place an order within 24 hours, it can show up, or on site, right? You can have printers on site and print things on demand. So there's no inventory. There's no risk of running out of something. It's quite extraordinary. Plus, it's cheaper and oftentimes better quality
and reliable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's reliable. It's right in front of you. So walk me through, because I'm very intrigued by this. Walk me through the steps. You go from a challenge, a physician, a nurse, a healthcare professional brings up a challenge and says, this is not working, or we need a better solution to this, because goes into an ideation phase, back and forth, I'm sure, a little bit, gets into a CAD drawing. Stop me if I'm doing this wrong. Gets into a CAD drawing and goes to a print shop in the hospital to get a result. Is that the way basically it plays out?
Yeah, all within hours.
And no one's doing this.
Well, I mean, there's lots of 3D printing design companies. You bring them an idea and they'll, but no one's doing it on a shared basis, right? So we call ourselves like the Netflix of medical devices.
Okay.
We want to have right now we just launched our MVP 2 months ago. So we've got an online digital library. So the whole idea is Eastern Health is going to give us a ton of ideas. CHIO is going to give us a ton of ideas. And then we're going to exchange those ideas. So as I solve problems for Eastern Health, I know that there's people in CHIO probably with the same problems. And we're going to, so I mean, from the very beginning, we've said we want to own our IP and manage our own IP, whether you bring us the idea or not, because I want that shared collaboration and that shared ecosystem of ideas. Because I think the library can grow exponentially with that shared knowledge.
Is there an academic collaboration here?
Oh, yeah.
So where are you getting the feed of biomedical engineers, I guess, and where are these folks coming from?
The biomedical teams in each hospital are certainly our champions. That's our way in. Mm-hmm. But we've had physiotherapists give us ideas. We've had nurses give us our ideas. Even people in the sanitation departments. The ideas can come from anywhere. And that's been part of our challenge to date is just having everyone understand who we are and that we're here. And then we're doing this on a subscription basis, not product by product. We really want that open collaboration and no hesitation at all to deal with us. And we're trying to completely circumvent procurement. There's no POs, there's no invoicing, you just press a button and it pops up and your order shows up the next day. Really incredible. One of the things we're working on now is, I think we're having really exciting conversations with the Cancer Care Clinic. And I think we'll have a whole aspect on our website for just cancer care. But traditionally, when you would receive radiation therapy on your face, they would have to develop a bolus so that they could direct the medicine to only the part of your face that it needed to be. Learning now about the process that they used to do it's extraordinary. But so, I mean, you could picture someone in St. Anthony that has to get on a plane and come to St. John's, and over multiple medical appointments, they'd have to get a plaster cast done of their face, and that plaster cast of their face would then create a plaster mold customized for their face. It takes several appointments, several hours, very uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And then your face would change over time. So this was a repeated process. So right now we're taking a CT scan from the patient that already exists. Mm-hmm. And same day, we're delivering a 3D printed bolus print of the face. So there's no travel, there's no multiple appointments, there's no discomfort from the patient, and they're getting faster cancer care. So, and I think it's a higher quality. They've done testing right now, and I think they're receiving a better treatment. Like that the medicine is more focused. And it's more. So
You know, Jacqueline, I've read about disruptive technology, but frankly, this is the first time I've been involved in a conversation that's actually blowing my mind as to how
yeah,
disruptive this is. Disruption to the good, really. Maybe not for
yeah.
some of the other manufacturers that might not be as fast as you guys, but obviously this is really improving. The fact that people don't have to travel, my God, this is really improving lives.
How do you, and that's part of our problem right now. Like we have to communicate the value of that, right? So we can price this properly.
Yeah.
And healthcare administrators don't think this way. But I mean, imagine if you run out of a $5 device and now you have to cancel appointments from people and reschedule them. And so the operational savings alone of this, of what we're doing is tremendous. And then the fact that I think we're given some better quality products. I mean, we're just having a ball every day.
Jacqueline, you brought up a good point there, and it was on my list to ask you about. So you've got a pretty disruptive technology, as Jerry so rightly pointed out. Not only a disruptive technology, but a disruptive approach to solving this problem. And you're coming up hard and fast against a pretty clunky system that is Canadian healthcare. Tell me about those challenges.
Oh my gosh. Um, Extraordinary. I mean, Eastern Health, we've been partnered with Eastern Health now just over 2 years. So that's been an amazing collaboration. So I guess to back up a little bit, we were founded by three doctors that met each other in med school. They started the very concept of this inside the medical faculty called MUNMed 3D. But it was within MUN and there were IP complications and they didn't know how to apply a business strategy to it. So it ultimately sort of failed. But then it birthed this company. So thankfully. And our three doctors are fully employed in different practices. We've got two in Ottawa, they're ENT surgeons, and one here practicing family medicine. So they certainly needed some leadership to come in and help run their company, despite them being amazing visionaries. So there were some relationships already ingrained from our three doctors that certainly helped get that first Eastern Health collaboration. But again, it's trying to price this thing.
Right.
So in the beginning, we were all focused on product by product. We realized that each department had their own budget. Everybody was very open and collaborative until you got to the point in time when you said, we need to have a transaction here. And then there was just hesitation because no one knew how to take the next step.
Right.
Initially, we tried to make relationships with distributors. I mean, I had lots of great conversations, but that was a waste of time. So, I mean, we're removing all of that and just having this subscription base so that it's all inclusive. And we have one purchase decision instead of lots. I think that's helping break down some barriers. I think this is going to air in a few weeks, so I might be safe to say, but Eastern Health is now recognized as an edge within Can Health. And Can Health is this national group that's been it's government funded. It's been set up across Canada, and it's meant to help hospitals link up with innovative companies and reduce the risk for healthcare organizations to adopt new innovative technologies and do it in a really quick way. So we're the first in Newfoundland, I think the second in Atlantic Canada to be approved as a Can Health project. So we've got a 4-month project right now launched with Eastern Health. And what this will do, this is the exciting part. Once we're successful, not if, once in May or June, the next very step is a contract with Eastern Health and an RFP that's put in place. But every other edge across the country can access that contract without going to RFP.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that's going to open the Canadian doors for us.
Right, and that's the contracting vehicle there to
Yeah.
get access. So for our guests, could you just define what you mean by a subscription model? Explain that to them.
Well, exact same thing as Netflix, right? I think the power comes in our accessing the digital library or content. So for one monthly price, you can engage with us for free. You can have full access to our design team of engineers. Very high limits on production. So you can place as many orders as you want. You can give as many ideas as you want. A free prototyping.
Wow.
So just a fully on, because right now we're just trying to validate this. We're trying to get ourselves a name on the map. We're trying to have people understand the concept and the impact that this can have. So we just want lots and lots of collaboration and partnerships and ideas. You play this out in a few years. So right now, I think the value is in the digital library itself. Play this out in a few years. I think our value will be in the network we have. People will want to come to us and get their ideas listed, and maybe that's a licensing sort of arrangement. But I mean, at that point, then you can be playing with the experts in every field. Like we can have the best knee brace company. We can have the best foot orthotic. That part's pretty exciting.
100%, right? Because there'll be so much power if you get into that user group and you can share those ideas. 100%. What are you printing? Is it all plastic now, or plastic metal, or what are you into?
Not metal. I mean, that's no doubt coming. Mostly plastic. We're doing some resin-based stuff. We're working with some SLA machines. But yeah, I mean, there are lots and lots of ideas in the low-hanging fruit area. So we're not working with medical devices that need to be Health Canada approved that are going inside patients. I think there's thousands of ideas to work on first before we go there.
Right.
But yeah, you play this out 3 to 5 years. I think the scan to printing technology will be extraordinary. So we can do really customized things for people, but in an automated, quick way. Right. So I think custom orthotics for your footwear. Right now, these things are hundreds of dollars each. I mean, we can get the price lowered to tens of dollars. So that, because I think healthcare can be affordable and accessible no matter where you live. I mean, I envision a 3D printer in clinics all through Labrador. Like, I don't think you have to necessarily get on planes anymore to get great services and customized services.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, so that's a great conduit into my next question, which is kind of what's over the horizon for you. But I mean, it sounds to me like that entry into that Canadian government program is going to give you some amazing kind of breakthrough into markets. And then once you prove it there, as you say, then it opens up the entire Canadian network and beyond. So that's very exciting stuff. And with the contracting vehicle in place, I mean, even more exciting, making it really easy for hospitals to get access to what it is that you can provide. So what is over the horizon aside from that big chunk?
Oh, I think we're going to have fun for many years yet with PolyUnity. But I mean, I'm the vice chair now on the techNL board as well. So, I mean, I'm spending more and more time with members. I mean, there's exciting things happening here in this province. And from such young people as well. And they're so open to feedback and learning and surrounding themselves with the right people. So I'm having a ball. I'm having a ball doing that and spending time with some of our members. So I'm not sure what the future holds, but I'm sure it'll be in this industry and it will be in this province. And it will be helping get Newfoundland as self-sufficient. And I mean, technology is a global product. So this can put us on the global map. And when we work with TaskForceNL in the last, since the pandemic, I think that changed people's minds as to what Newfoundland could do. We were suddenly producing manufacturing here in Newfoundland, globally competitive priced products. And who thought Newfoundland could be a manufacturer?
Jacqueline?
So with that and technology, I don't know. It's going to be incredible.
I just want to touch on the fact you're vice chair of TechNL, and I think, incredible work TechNL has been doing over the last couple of decades, really. But
Yeah.
I spent an hour with a college in North Atlantic student prior to this. I reached out, had some questions, and you know what was funny? At the end, he said to me, "Thank you. Thank you so much for spending time with me." I think any young person who's listening to us needs to understand that people like ourselves want you to be successful. And there's nothing more rewarding. Alan and I have talked about this we've got our careers behind us, frankly. Not to say we're not doing some exciting stuff right now, but if you're a young person and you're wondering, techNL, Newfoundland Labrador Construction Association, all these associations, EcoNext, the people like us, we want to give of our time. That's not to say we got 2 or 3 hours to sit with you, but I think is really important. And I love hearing someone who's the vice chair of techNL who's willing to say, you know what, these young people, this young man has an idea for a business that blew my mind. I never even knew it existed. So I'm more pumped by the meeting I had with him. I know he's got a little pump being with me, but you know what? We all need this collaboration. Alan, you talk about it really well. Collaboration is really important, isn't it?
Oh, Jerry, I mean, 100%. I mean, I keep, Jacqueline, you'll know that, and if you've listened to some of the podcasts, I know you have, many of them hover around technology in Newfoundland, and there's a secret sauce there. There's a secret sauce in Newfoundland that people are paying attention to right now. And
Yep.
a lot of it hinges around the people and their willingness to help one another and want to see each other thrive. And they're doing it. And it's happening. It's happening with your company right now and so many more. Tell me what you attribute that secret sauce to.
Well, I think Newfoundlanders, we've been through some incredibly tough situations. We have this resiliency. I think we have a hope. I think we realize that we had to fix this for ourselves. It's not going to be the provincial or federal governments. Even more so now. I mean, after the incredible amounts of spending that just happened with COVID on every government level, I mean, we got to pay this back. So I think the business community itself has to solve some of these problems. I was talking to I met a surgeon came down here with a new startup that he has from Toronto, and he was just perplexed and confused. And he's like, "There's something wrong with you guys here in Newfoundland. You're all so nice." It doesn't happen anywhere else. It doesn't happen in Silicon Valley or Toronto or New York. And with the talent shortages we have right now in Newfoundland, and how there's 50 or 60 companies right now all trying to hire the same resources, right? Programmers and project managers and engineers. And we're not poaching staff. We're not stealing staff. There's no, the things that you would expect to see, you're just not seeing. I mean, I know if I called up Verifin right now and said, I need project management support. Like, we would even lend each other resources at times for certain projects with no questions asked and no expectation of things in return, because you knew you'd do that for them when they came to ask. I hope we don't lose that. I think that's part of what's made us successful to date. And right now there's so much momentum, and there's every day on LinkedIn, you're seeing multiple stories of new funding announcements and new large contracts put in place, and people coming home, people coming back, right? And I think it's exciting. I think we need to maintain that momentum. And I don't think it needs to stop at all. I think we need to ride this and celebrate each other's successes and help each other out when we can, whether it's quietly or publicly.
My gosh, Jacqueline, you just you could work for the tourism department. What you've just described, Newfoundland. I mean, I can't imagine. The people in Silicon Valley must be saying we got to get up there, and they are, right? They are. They're, I've heard stories that the phone is ringing off the hook in some government agencies of people looking at Newfoundland as the next opportunity to grow their tech business.
You talked to anyone before 5 years ago, like you had to go to Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
If you wanted to play at those levels or attract those types of funding things, you had to go. It just, there was no other alternative. And I think that's crap now. I mean, Verafin proved that wrong. Colab, MISA, we're all proving that wrong right now, that you don't need to go to Silicon to get your check and to take yourself to the next level at all. No. So I think that's one great thing that's come out of COVID as well.
Yeah, and there's so many other companies to be named, right? I mean, Genoa Design and Bracken and Pangeo, and goes on and on and on, and such amazing success stories of companies truly punching above their weight class and making a global impact. There's good things happening in Newfoundland. There's no doubt about it. Jacqueline, what a wonderful conversation it has been today. And we always ask our guests to leave the audience with a piece of advice. What might that be from you?
Oh gosh. Just one piece, hey?
Oh, you can give, look, we've got the whole internet, so you can give as many as you want.
I mean, the one thing for me personally, I mean, I don't really have regrets, but if I look back, I would have told myself to not worry so much and to have more fun and to enjoy the journey. As long as you have the right mindset, things will happen when they're supposed to happen. Opportunities will present themselves. You just got to recognize them and trust in that. So I definitely would have enjoyed the journey more, because I'm having an incredible time. We've got so many things to worry about. Right, we're a pre-revenue, pre-contract company. Lots of things to worry about, but we're having a ball each day, and I think things will fall into places they need to. So that's pretty important. Just be humble and never stop learning. I mean, I spend hours a week listening to podcasts like yours. I just registered for Masterclass Christmas time, and I'm having a ball listening to experts and people with inspiring stories in all kinds of different areas. And you can learn from everyone, even my very young team. Darlene Jacqueline from Mon introduced the concept of reverse mentoring to me a few months back. But the fact that I'm learning as much from these young people as I think I might be giving to them. And we brought 3 high school students through PolyUnity last summer. And because I thought it was important to give back and to be visible and to show them the opportunities. And I thought we'd have to come up with projects for them to keep them busy. But my God, we were blown away. They were teaching us things, and the initiative they were taking, and they were helping in developing the prototypes. Like, we'd know all those things I was worried about was silly. I mean, we learned as much from those 3 kids as we gave to them, maybe more. So the continuous learning, no matter how old you are or how good you are at your area. And it just gives you that curiosity and hope.
Jerry, your thoughts?
I'm not often speechless, but I'm going to say this, Jacqueline. Thank God I reached out to you. Really, I mean that. You know, like I said at the beginning of this, I don't know who you are. I don't know. I had a sense from your LinkedIn profile, your background. But wow, you started talking about your mom, Linda, and just, you know, your authenticity. That's what Alan and I are after here. This is not about high profile, scary, look at me on my pedestal things. This is, you came out swinging from an authentic perspective. One thing I took a note of, you know, we talked about your voice as a young female, and you lost your voice at some times. Like that, being able to say that. There's a young woman listening to this, at some point in the future is going to, Alan, you and I have had wonderful careers. There's times when you're like, oh, you wonder where your voice has gone. Again, Jacqueline, thank you for saying that. Being calm, yeah, I've been knee jerk. I'm still working on that. I think you've really provoked thought for me today. The Netflix of medical devices, reverse mentoring. I mean, I got notes here. As I said, I can't do the podcast without a pen in my hand, despite the fact I've worked in digital marketing for 30 years. Anyway, it's obvious to me you care deeply and you're quite prepared. And again, just thanks for coming on. I think there's so much that you're doing, and I look forward to you where you're going to go with the techNL.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I enjoyed the conversation. Out of my comfort zone for sure. And there's other topics I would have loved to bring up that we didn't even get to. So if you ever are lacking another guest sometime, happy to come back and chat some more.
Well, another wonderful edition of Gale Force Winds. And Jacqueline, if that was out of your comfort zone, my goodness, I can only imagine if we get into the sweet spot with you, how this thing is going to go. It was a really interesting journey you took us on here today. And I'll start off by saying, Linda, I hope you watch this, and I hope you're proud of Jacqueline, because she sure is proud of you. So that's wonderful. And the foundation from which you've built your career, Jacqueline, whether it was your grandmother, your mother, it's unbelievable what you've been able to achieve in such a calm manner, and your ability to see opportunity in most times when most people wouldn't see it is quite frankly, it's inspirational. And the way you talk about the direction that Newfoundland is going, it's going to make people want to move there. So, and as well they should, because it is a little piece of paradise, as I'm sure that you know right off the bat. I always like to leave the audience with my own piece of advice, and quite frankly, the world needs more Jacqueline Lee. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you for tuning in to Gale Force Winds. That's Gale Force Winds, WINS.com.